is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna go over the Sunday slate for the Call of Duty League Draftkings Slate, which is a 3-gamer, I believe. It is going to be on Sunday, May the 22nd. I'm gonna be going over all of the lines, all the matchups, my favorite plays, previous plays and previous stats from each team. I'm going to be going over that in depth. And if you like betting on esports, if you like the Call of Duty League, if you like Halo, Valorant, CSGO, and you're looking for a platform or a channel to help you decide on your betting picks for those platforms, feel free to subscribe, leave a like, comment. If you think I should do something in the channel a little bit better, feel free to, communicate and help this community grow. The esports community is very great community. I love being a part of it, and I love making money. And let's look at today's slate. It's going to be juicy. We're going to have some great matchups, and let's get into it. So today we have a 3-game slate for the Call of Duty League here on DraftKings, and I'm going to be going over those 3 games. Yesterday we had a series of games, and Friday as well. Pretty awesome games like Florida Mutineers against Minnesota Rocker. Pretty good matchups, and today we're going to have some bangers as well. We're going to have the LA Guerrillas going up against the Paris Legion. We're also going to be having the Atlanta FaZe against Optic, Texas. We're going to have Toronto against New York, and these are all going to be really good matchups. I like a lot of picks here with these prices, and I'm going to go over these. Another cool thing that the CDL is. So yesterday we saw the Paris Legion get absolutely smoked by the New York Subliners. They got swept 3-0, as you can see here on the screen. 250, 144. 6-1 and 3-0 on the control, so they got absolutely obliterated. Safe to say, Paris Legion is the worst team on the game, so I'm not going to be targeting them specifically. The only player I would target in this situation would be Temp, but Temp is at a $10,000 premium right now, which I don't think he's really worth. As you can see here, $10,000 for Temp, and that's not even on the MVP salary. That's just on the straight up flex salary. I don't really like that price for him. Yeah, he's exceeded 100 fantasy points various games for this squad, but they're just completely losing, and I don't want to risk this guy losing on this team and not going absolutely nuts like he has been going recently, right? Kind of feel like he might be giving up because he knows his team is shit, but it is what it is. I'm not going to target this squad. I don't recommend it, and that means that I am going to be targeting the LA Guerrillas just because they're in a good spot to sweep as well. So even though the LA Guerrillas actually won stage 2 majors, they've actually gone on an unbelievable losing streak here since the Pro-Am Classic and so far in the Major 3 qualifiers. Now, I would say that for the Major 2 tournament champions, if you see here for the Major 2 tournament champions, they were beating everybody. They beat FaZe, they beat Boston, Florida, Seattle, London. Granted, this was with Spart, who's now not on the team again. He's on the bench because Gunless is back. And now they're back to losing again. I do believe that LA Guerrillas is going to beat the Paris Legion. I don't know if it's going to be a 3-0, but I do know they're going to beat them. In my opinion, I feel like Slasher is probably the most optimal here right now, since he is the cheapest on the winning team, or on the team heavily favored to win. And I couldn't put up the lines today because Bovada was down or something. I couldn't load it up for some reason. But Slasher's at 7,800. He hasn't been doing the best, but Slasher's a really good player who has upside. I do believe he's in a good spot, as well as Gunless at 8,000. Even though Gunless just came back, I think Gunless has a lot of upside. Really, everybody in this team has a lot of upside, but I would say that my favorite picks from this match probably would be anybody except Hugh Or, the reason I say maybe accept Hugh is because Hugh is 9,600 and he hasn't really been playing his best. Even though, this team is heavily favored to win, I feel like Paris Legion, if they even take a game, it's going to be hard for Hugh to meet his value if they're not going to get that 40-point bonus for the sweep on DraftKings. So Hugh might be a little bit too expensive, but at the same time, he can definitely meet that price tag. So I would say anybody in the LAG camp, I would say Slasher, Asim, Gunless, Hugh, all really solid picks. It's all just about who you have money for at the end of the day when you finish your lineup. So moving on to the next matchup, we're going to have Atlanta FaZe against Optic Texas. That's going to be a banger and a harder one to dissect because both teams are really, really, really good. The two best teams in the league, and that one's going to be a bounty match as well, a 10K bounty match. I believe it's going to be the last match of the day or the second one. I'm not sure, but it's going to be real competitive. So let's take a look at the salaries for that one. So for those of you that have been watching the Call of Duty League closely, you've noticed that Illy, which plays on the Optic Texas roster, has a thumb injury and he's been having to sit out the last couple of games, and he's going to be sitting out for the foreseeable future here in the Optic Texas squad. So Optic Texas actually picked up this guy named Prolu, who's actually pretty good. He's been, playing the role of Illy pretty well. Optic doesn't seem to have missed a step, so they're still very well the number one best team in the league. But ever since this roster move, they haven't played FaZe. So now that they're playing FaZe, they're number two best team on the league. I do think that they're gonna be the toughest match for Optic. I do think Optic has the capability of, beating FaZe, and it being my favorite team as well, from Texas. So I just think that a lot of players here on the Optic and Atlanta game are very close together in prices. You can see here, Simp, Shotzi, Prolu, Abizi, Dashi. The top players are within a couple $100 from each other, and it's just going to be one of those games where whichever team comes out, on point is going to be the team that takes the win. Players like Abizi or somebody like Celium, who absolutely went off yesterday. Players like this, you really don't know if they're gonna go off or they're just gonna be mediocre, or not mediocre, but just get an average fantasy point placement, which FaZe, being a team that plays slow sometimes, very methodical, you'd see that on matchups like this against teams like FaZe, against teams like Optic, I should say. FaZe sometimes plays slower, leading to less kills, leading to less fantasy points, even though they win the matches. And it's happened to me before where I have somebody like Celium or something and they win the match, but they get like less than 100 fantasy points, even though they were one of the most expensive players on the slate. And that could be annoying at times because if, they won, but they really didn't produce in the points just because they were taking turns, being on the points and stuff like that, and just playing hide and seek type of gameplay, So I just feel that this game is a toss-up. I know, I'm an Optic fan. I do think Optic has a slight advantage, but like I said, they're playing with Prolu. They haven't had as much time to play with him as they have with Illy, and FaZe is still the same team, and they got sent back, which he was not playing last time Optic played them. So I think, if Optic wins a 3-1 or a 3-2, I wouldn't be surprised. But Optic has beat the full team of FaZe before. I would say picks wise, I really like RCDs at 6,400. RCDs isn't the fastest player, but he can most definitely provide more than 100 fantasy points per series. he's the type of player where when he needs to step up for his team, he really does. And he's the cheapest player on a team that is essentially favored to win. I can't pull up the stats right now, the odds, but I do think FaZe is favored to win. Arcity's got 143 fantasy points last match against Boston. He got 70 kills, 53 deaths against New York City. And against Seattle, he did really good too. So Arcity's a really good player. I'd watch out for him. And, other than that, I really feel like Scump, I believe, if we check here, his price, 6,600 is pretty good for Scump too. He's been on a roll this season. He's been actually looking like, his former self more. I don't know, maybe he wants to retire this year and win the chip and just call it, a career. Maybe that's why he's trying so hard. But he's just been, overproducing his salary recently. If you look at his game log, all you see all the way down is 100 fantasy points against every team, including FaZe. So that's really good, actually. I'm surprised, and I don't know why Scump is so cheap, but he's very, very, very cheap. The only time he didn't provide more than 100 fantasy points was that one time they lost to Seattle, and that was a while ago. But yeah, other than that, I do feel like Scump and Arcities are the best picks for either one of these squads here, just because if this game goes the distance, they are going to definitely have lots of fantasy points attached to their name. So I don't know who to pick. Dashi, Shotzi, Abizi, Simp, they're all cracked. I really don't know which pick I'm gonna have. It's just a matter of who do you think is gonna win and just get more players on that team. Just a personal preference. This matchup is a toss-up in my opinion. Both teams are really good. And with that being said, I do predict a 3-2 victory from Optic. I'm biased, but I do think Optic can, skirt it out with FaZe. And with that being said, let's move on to the next matchup, which is going to be Toronto against the New York Subliners. So for the last matchup that we have for the Sunday slate, we're going to be having the Toronto Ultra and the New York Subliners. This is going to be a great match to watch, just because the Subliners have also been, playing a little well. They definitely improved a lot from the beginning of the year, the beginning squad that they've had. So I am looking forward to see how they look, against a team like Toronto. Toronto themselves have been on a slump though. They, not a slump, but they lost to Minnesota. They beat Seattle 3-2. That was cool. But they lost to New York in the Pro-Am. I don't know if they had actually played with a different squad back then or not. But nevertheless, for the Major 2 tournament, they really ended up that tournament really, really rough. They went on a five game losing spree, as you can see here, against Boston, Atlanta, Paris, New York, and the Los Angeles Guerrillas. They lost to all of them, 2-3, 2-3, 2-3, 1-3, 1-3. What follows? 0-3, 0-3, 0-3. It's funny how they lose like that in order. But that was that. I think they're getting their bearings a little bit, so I feel like Toronto Ultra has a decent chance to beat New York. They actually have a good chance to beat New York. But some of the picks that I have here highlighted for this matchup are definitely on either side. I know that Bance at 6,200. He hasn't really been producing too much, but if Toronto wins, Bance is going to be in a really good position to capitalize here, although I don't have too much faith in him. I do feel like Kleenex is at a steal of a deal at 7,000. I feel like Kleenex is going to be a must-have in your lineups, just because he's literally, think about it like this, he's like 100 points or $100 away from $6,900, and Kleenex in that bracket would be a must-have in your lineup every single day of the week. So at 7,000, Kleenex's value is just through the roof. This guy gets 100-point fantasy games consistently. He's a really good player. I really love how he plays as well. He plays very aggressive. If you look at his game log, he has a lot of good matches, although sometimes he dips below average, but for the most part, he's a really good player. I believe Kleenex is one of the best picks, if not the best pick in this matchup. Other than that, I would just say stack on the team you believe is going to win. I do have a inclination to believe that Toronto is going to win this match. If we look at the Subliners history, yeah, they 3-0'd Paris, but that's not saying much. They beat Boston, which is saying much because Boston is a really good team. They lost to Atlanta. We all know that in the Pro-Am they won the Pro-Am, so you could see here they beat everybody, undefeated in the Pro-Am. That's cool, whatnot. But Major 2, they lost to LAT, Atlanta. Before that, they beat Toronto. So last time they win against Toronto, they beat them, at least in the actual major qualifiers, not some Pro-Am Classic, right? But for the most part, I feel like Toronto Ultra, you know, they can win this match. I think it's a toss-up as well. Paul X at 8,600. I believe they lowered his price. I really like Paul X as well. He's a really solid player. Solid player at 8,600. $200 less than what they had him for against Paris. I believe he's a very good value as well. Everybody else is just a toss-up for me. I mean, Cammy at 9,200. He's a great player, but at 9,200, I feel like there are other players that I would like to, you know, pick over him just because he's not so consistent with the fantasy points. Yeah, other than that, I just feel like my personal picks for here, this matchup, are probably Kleenex on the side of Ultra. That would be one player I would pick if I had to pick one. And if we go over to the Subliners side of things, if we look at the Subliners, one player that really stands out, like I said, was Kismet. Kismet has been really good for New York. Kismet, for all those who haven't watched the Call of Duty League, he used to play for the Paris Legion back in the inaugural season of the Call of Duty League 3 years ago. It's been 3 years already. You know, he got dropped and then he didn't have a team in the league, but now he's back with the New York Subliners and he's better than ever. He's really producing, and I think that at 6,800, almost a $2,000 drop, not $2,000, like a $1,200 drop from the price where he was yesterday against Paris. I think that Kismet is a very valuable play here for the New York side of things. So I do think that the two value plays in my book here are Kismet and Kleenex. Really good plays. Use that to your advantage. Build out your lineups to whoever you think is going to win these series. I predict victory. New York Subliners 3-2. I do thank you guys for watching this video. For those of you who stick around to the end, please feel free to subscribe, like, you know, if you like this type of content, you like betting content, it's only going to get better and more diverse in the future. I'm trying to make all of this more you know, efficient to make all this content. Take some time, you know, so I'm sorry if my content isn't as consistent. You know, life gets in the way sometimes, but I'm trying my hardest so that we can build this community, have a nice little betting community here for the esports. You know, it's all fun and games. You know, play responsible, save your money, don't bet too much or more than you can afford to lose. Just have some good time, you know, bet on your knowledge and don't overextend yourself, and you're gonna have a good time, a good pastime, and it's a good way to make money and invest in, you know, your hobby that you really love. So thank you guys for watching the video. Like I said, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Appreciate it.